Tim, we've got so much stuff here, my man. I mean, I know how you love you some Michelle Lujan Grisham for New Mexico. I know
Oh,
you
I
do.
know. You know what's amazing is the fact that we can do daily shows and they never like short us on content. They're always
That's
right
true.
there, making
That's
sure
true.
we have
There's a
plenty
lot
to
to
talk about.
digest. That's I think what you said before show was amazing. We're like the upper GI tract of the Second Amendment news. So good. Lots to take in, lots to get nutrients out of. All right.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, you know what? I think we should start something, Tim. And I think we owe this to the population, to the people. There's a new disease out. I don't know if you heard, but it's a new disease. It's communicable. It's bad.
Oh,
It's bad. Yeah.
there's a new contagion rolling around.
Yes. Yes, actually. It's
Hmm.
it's official. The Secretary of Health from New Mexico, it just told us. Check this out. This is number one from Dr. Buttonpusher.
The law enforcement efforts. It's violence interruption grants that we have available and that applications are due for shortly that allow cities and other jurisdictions to be able to deliver programs that help break the cycle of violence moving from person to person, because violence really is a contagious disease.
It's
Wow.
official, Tim. It's official.
So
It's a contagious disease.
I was just kicking my dog last night and I realized my cat was kicking the other cat. I was like, maybe there,
It's
there is a
actually
contagious
it's
aspect to this
contagious.
violence.
What a
Um,
weird example.
wow. I know, right? Well, this is a weird comment. I mean, seriously, where do you come up with this? Is this tied to the CDC trying to make violence some
Ah,
sort of a pandemic? Is that what he's
ah.
trying to hitch his wagon to? I mean, what's this goon talking about?
I'm
You know,
glad you asked.
we want to break this violence of the cycle of violence. It's communicable. And
Yeah,
oh my gosh, I didn't mean to get violence on you. Oh, you better go see the doctor.
exactly. You got to wear your mask and wash your hands so the violence doesn't spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, legitimately. And so it's funny that you asked him because this was in an update that the governor of New Mexico gave around her public health order and a big marketing push to say how effective it was. That's what this meeting was. So the Secretary of Health, who you just saw from New Mexico, has deemed violence as a communicable disease. It's contagious. It's a problem.
I
So,
think there might actually be something medically going on down there. It might be stupid in the
mm,
water, and we need to dispatch, all the
is that
government
contagious?
agencies, all the alphabets down there and do some groundwater testing and stuff because
We
clearly
should.
stupid is being communicated down there. It's
It
going from
it is.
person to person, especially in
Yeah, I don't
government.
think. Yeah, I don't think violence is the only thing that's that's a contagious disease. That was a stretch, but I think it was. I think it's a good one to note for the population, so we know how to avoid anyone who is violent sneezing and hasn't washed their hands after kicking said dog. It's important to note, Tim. It's important to note.
Yeah. If you're at an
And that's
indoor
just the
firing range, you just want to make sure you keep not 6 feet, at least 16
yeah,
feet of distance from people
exactly,
around you because you don't want the
exactly.
violence spreading should it crop up.
That's right. That's right. What did they call that? They called that. They called that
Social distancing.
social distance. Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness, social
We'll call this
distancing. Oh
violence
well.
distancing, and it's got to be
Yes,
16 feet, not 6, because we're just
I
making up
like that.
numbers. No, let's make it
That's
10. 10 seems to be the magic number. 10 feet.
yeah. 10's too much. Yeah, you gotta have under 10 rounds. Oh my gosh. Okay, and that's just the beginning, Tim. That's just the beginning because not only are we now aware of a new disease that's out on the planet, we have the governor herself. I always want to call her mayor. I don't know why, but the governor herself. She's going on the tirade about how effective her public health order is. She goes down the road of so many things, Tim. This is going to be fun. Let's go right into her, the star of the show in New Mexico, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Number two, Dr. Buttonpusher.
Which is why we are doing our inspections, and we've done an incredible amount of our gun shops, well over 400. I will tell you that's way more than is even allowed by the federal government. And so we are touching every pressure point, every place where we can reduce illicit activity if it occurs, we're on it.
Did
Hmm?
she just admit to breaking federal crime? I mean, like you know something about FFLs, right?
Yeah. What?
Yeah,
This woman's all sorts of special, man. Wow.
she is. Yeah,
Let's.
because
What do you
why
even
not?
say to that? Right?
I mean, you guys question. You just question it. Like you said, like it's very rare that you and I are short for words, but it's one of two things. Did you just admit to breaking federal law? Or are you saying you're doing it more than the federal government? Because we might need some clarification on that one, Gov.
The judge that keeps striking her little decisions and edicts down probably watched this press conference rubbing his head going, she's giving me a headache.
Probably. I mean, well, after all, this entire press conference was to show how effective this entire public health order was. And then she goes down. I didn't grab these clips because that's not the point of this digestion episode that we're doing.
Yeah.
But she goes down all this thing. Like, look how many drug dealers that we took off the streets. And look how many people were arrested for violent, felonious crime. And she goes down this entire road. And she's like, if we didn't have the public health order, this never would have happened. And everyone is going, the public health order was blocked, banned, barred,
Right.
and stopped.
It was
almost
never implemented
immediately.
because, it keeps getting shut down by the courts.
Exactly.
I mean-
And your own enforcement said it ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It has nothing to do with policing. No, it was her public
Yeah.
health order. Yeah.
No.
It whipped those police into shape, and now they're out there actually doing their jobs. I mean, what is she saying? Because it certainly wasn't her public health order. All that did was get the attention of the courts.
That's exactly right.
The only
That's
place
all
it's been effective is aggravating the judge. So,
Yep.
yeah.
It's an interesting this was like watching this whole thing because I live streamed it on my channel. Watching this entire thing in real time was comical. Like it was absolutely fascinating. It was like watching narcissism grow out of a bud into a flower. It was real weird. But that's just halfway, Tim. We're only halfway through the goodies for
I'm
you.
scared.
Oh yeah, here we go. So let's go into number 3. This is another little nougat.
Lastly, expect to see assault weapons, a ban on my call. And given now, and I'm going to give Senator Heinrich, who's been working on this, but just give you a sense of how long this has been taking this country. For more than 7 years, so that the mechanics feature test, which trips us up because we modify guns in this country, and get a gun kit, legally or illegally. And so you take a firearm that's not as dangerous and you can turn it into a weapon of war. And we don't know how to define that because somebody comes up with a new kit about every 10 minutes about how to get around it. So then policymakers don't want to deal with it. Courts don't know where they are, given the Second Amendment. And it gets really dicey, complicated, messy. So we just keep ignoring it. Well,
What in
Where do you
the
start on
world is
that
she
one?
babbling on about? Is she talking about cosmetic features? Like, well,
That's exactly right.
the flippy thing that goes up, well, they'll just call it the flippy
Uh-huh.
thing that goes down because what goes up must come down. They keep changing it, and we just can't legislate around flippy things that keep going up and down. We have
Right.
to have consistency in flippy things.
Mhm.
What in the world is this woman babbling about? Basically, what she's
Yep.
trying to say is we can't define what a weapon of war is outside of cosmetic things, and they just keep changing the cosmetics, and we don't know what to do.
Correct. That's exactly right. What she's and this is why I put this clip in here because it sets up number one. It sets up for the next clip of she's stealing the work from the senators in in the Senate who just put out the Go Safe Act. That's coming next. But the other thing here, she's articulating the frustration of the gun controllers because they consistently go after features and they go after accessories and they go after all these things which are not guns. And they make them into guns, but they're not guns. So they go in down this road of like, well, this is a kit and that's a bad kit. And this is a good kit, but this might be a kit. And now it's a weapon of war, but it wasn't a weapon of war. But I don't know. Is it Tuesday? Is it raining? Did we add in the exemption for one-handed elephants? I mean, like literally, dude, it's just, that's the frustration. That's where we put
Yeah.
them. And that's why it's so important to fight these things is because they are trying to poke holes in the dam and find where it's going to collapse. And they can't. And I love it with every bit of my being. Because it's sticky, messy, and complicated.
She sounded pretty desperate there.
She did. But have no fear, Tim, because the desperation has been dispelled. Here we go. Stealing the work. Plagiarism of the highest order. Number 4, Dr. Button Pusher.
Well, Senator Heinrich didn't. He's been at it for more than 7 years, and he's figured out that if we focus on the delivery systems, which can't be interrupted with these kits in the same way, this could be a federal vehicle. I agree with them. It's good work. Let's try that vehicle in our own assault weapons ban in New Mexico. Because one thing that I have that the senator doesn't have is I've got a set of lawmakers that are more likely than not to have a fair debate about guns, gun violence, weapons of war, and keeping New Mexicans safe than members of Congress are. So I feel pretty good about our ability here, and we'll have to see how those votes all shake out. But I think that that's a game changer for a lot of places, including New Mexico. So expect to see that on my call.
Oh, so she's talking about the new business end, is she not?
Exactly.
We're not talking about the muzzle or
No,
the bolt, the
no.
receiver, the ammunition, the flippy thing that goes up, the barrel shroud. No, we're talking about the magazine now, the delivery mechanism. When's
The
that?
delivery mechanism.
What it
that's right.
delivers ammunition into the chamber. What is she talking about? I mean, wow.
Well, I'll
But
tell
now
you.
they're going to go after magazines. She won't say magazines.
No, she won't.
It's the delivery mechanism, the new business end.
Exactly.
I'm being nebulous over here because I'm not even sure what I'm talking about. But we're going to focus on these delivery system things.
Well, she's trying to steal the work from what Angus King said when he introduced the Go Safe Act, right? Remember the Go Safe Act, right?
Mhm.
The Gas Operated
Yes.
Safety Act, that whole thing. They're talking about the way the firearm functions. So the entire point is, yes, the magazine has to be affixed and it has to have a limit and all those pieces, but it's also all about how it actually functions, right? So it's driven by gas, which is where they get into the really sticky part, because when you start diving down to how it actually works and where it'll fall apart, it kind of does fall apart. And that's before you get to the court systems. But she's jumping the shark again. I mean, she jumped the shark already when she banned weapons and concealed carry permits in Bernalillo County. Well, she jumped the shark and all the Democrats piled onto her. Well, now she's jumping the shark to do an assault weapons ban that was introduced in the Senate that didn't even have a chance to get voted on. So now she's going to ruin and pee in their Cheerios on that one too, because she's on a quest.
Yeah.
She wants something higher.
But this whole Go Safe Act thing, it's so misleading. It's purposely being convoluted so people that are fence sitters out there looking in have no idea really what they're talking about. They don't have any idea what they're talking about, but they're trying to, instead of saying we want to ban self-loading firearms, we want to ban semi-automatic firearms, because that's what they're going after here. But they don't want to say that. Right.
100%.
So they got to say, well, let's call it the gas operated rifles. And so let me tell you what we want to ban. We want to, you tap off gas over here and the gas moves down this little tube. And then when it moves down this tube, it increases the partial pressure of oxygen to this level, which then impinges upon this part, which then rotates this part and moves over here. And this is what we want to ban. We want to ban all this. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Are you trying to say you want to ban self-loading rifles? No, we want to ban the gas system. Oh, yeah.
With oxygen.
And oxygen and nitrogen. Nitrogen's most of our atmosphere. And so we need to understand the partial pressures of all these different gases when we're using gas to impinge on this part to move this piece that is the delivery mechanism for the gun. It's like, shut the beep up and tell us what you really want. You're trying to say you want to ban semi-automatics. You want to ban guns that load themselves. You want to ban things that we use and they're common use in 2023. It's like, oh my goodness, these people are desperate. And it's so ridiculous.
That's exactly right. And by the way, just a quick question, point of personal privilege. Did you just self-moderate with your own bleep in a Tim rant?
I did.
I mean, that was on the fly.
Go bleep yourself.
Dr. Butterfisher, Dr. Harry, he's like, my one job, Tim.
And I stole it.
You did. You stole his thunder.